Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates. I am absolutely pleased to be doing this mental dialogue pop-up show. Got on a couple of special guests as we get this thing started. We working to share it and get it out to more people, so bear with me. But in doing so, I've got a couple of esteemed guests for this morning's. I'm so used to doing my Saturday morning show. I ain't even used to rocking a pop-up night show. It's been a while since we did one. But with that said, tonight's a special edition Mental Dialogue pop-up show. Queen and Slim. She loved it. He hated it. What says you? Special guest Ashley Johnson-Alford. Queen, thank you for being with me, as well as Clarence Rickett III, better known as C. Rick. Thank you, King, for being with me. But to go ahead and just pop it up real quick, man, let's go ahead and jump off into this thing. We're just going to do a quick hour, because this hour's going to be quick because there's a lot to unpack with this actual movie. And so we'll start with your take, Queen. Again, I've already kind of let the cat out the bag and know that you loved it. But if you will, actually just introduce yourself real quick. This queen right here is the sponsor of tonight's show with her Free Black Law apparel. I'm rocking the Khalif Browder shirt, proud to say, for those of y'all who know who that
Appreciate
brother
that.
is. But Queen, again, thank you for being with us for this, pop-up show. Snuck you in, and if you will, to, again, give a little background and just tell people your take on the Queen and Slim movie that is still sold out here in Atlanta, believe it or not.
Right.
Go ahead, Queen.
My name is Ashley Johnson-Alford. I am an activist here in Atlanta. I absolutely loved Queen and Slim. I've seen it twice already. We'll probably see it again sometime this weekend. I think it brought up a lot of necessary conversations, whether you loved it or hated, like you're talking about it. And I think that's always extremely positive in the Black community.
Nah, I love it. And so, my man, Clarence Rickett, again, we could go by C. Rick. And I know you didn't want me to necessarily use the word hated it, but I know when you called me excited about it and passionate about the movie, and to be fair, you were part of the reason we went ahead and jumped this show up tonight versus waiting to our regular Saturday morning show, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday morning. We went ahead and got on it because you was just very passionate about this movie, and it wasn't so much that you hated it, but there were some things that you disliked about the movie. If you will, King, just again give a little background and tell us what you disliked about the movie, and then we're gonna break this thing all the way down. I'm gonna give out the phone number just in case people want to get in on this hour with us. But go ahead, King. Thank you for being with us.
Well, my name is, I'm normally going by C. Rick, but my name is Clarence. I'm a writer, actor, and spoken word poet. Um, I wouldn't say that I hated the film. It was some things that were just out of place in the movie. And it was some things that really uh, some things in the movie could have just been kept somewhere else. Because some of the, I mean, Queen and Slim, you'll be looking for it to be a real Queen and Slim movie. It should have been named Fiona and Frank, because this is not the Queen and Slim. I mean, we need about 2 hours with this one, but we got 1 hour.
Yeah, we go get it in though,
I
King.
didn't like the fact that it was too many. It was how they did. What did I say?
You
I
good,
didn't
bro?
like the fact that every other man in the movie was stereotyped except for the main character, Slim. You had the uncle who was a pimp. You had the mechanic who was a con artist. Then you had the person at the end who ratted them out. Then you had the white couple who had something to do with ratting them out, and the uncle did too from the beginning because the uncle sent him to a white person's house. Then you had the father, the big guy, heavyset guy who they hit, who kept calling the young boy's mother um, a bitch, and then kept calling the boy a little nigga, kept degrading him. Then there was a protest with a young boy who at first was inspired, but now you got him inspired to shoot a black cop who was trying to help him.
So you got a long laundry
I'm
list,
trying to
sound like,
recall.
brother.
Like
Huh?
Yeah,
literally,
you got a long laundry list. Like I don't know how you don't get all the way to hated it with that long of a list.
right? Like, what did you like about it?
Yeah.
Oh, there was some good things about the movie that I did like. Now there was a scene with the two couples. I don't know, was that going toward the end where it got kind of romantic and poetic. I said I love that little scene.
The sex scene
Um, oh no, not that scene. It was, you remember when they were holding hands? I
at
think
the very end.
was that the very end
Yeah, that's the very end.
where
You
it's
ain't
like
find too much you liked
it
about
was
it,
like they
brother.
were going
Sounds
into
like.
a poem.
Now let me put this thing in some context before we get into all the specifics, if you will. I
Oh,
typically, for those who are regularly listeners to our platform, I definitely try to, in a sense, play the moderator role. I am going to go ahead and give my take early in the show versus typically I save it to the end, and it's just something that I wanted to kind of share with the audience from this standpoint and just bring it up on the show to see where we go with it. I basically wrote down this very little short statement that said, for me, Queen and Slim was perfection on screen. But it hurt me that for most of our lives as African Americans, we've been forced to live our lives through the context of acceptance from whites. That some of us are unable to appreciate storytelling and art at its finest. I literally watched the movie a couple of nights ago. You can't say enough about the soundtrack. If that's the one thing that everybody's consistent on, because people are all over the place with this
Right.
movie, they love it or they
I love
hate
the
it.
soundtrack.
But ain't nobody complaining about this soundtrack. I can't wait to go get it myself. I still go to the stores, to the record stores, and actually buy music that way. So I haven't gotten the soundtrack. But with that said, I literally at the end of the movie, when the credits was rolling, the music was so good. I literally stayed through all the credits, and it's three more songs played. I was literally in the theater alone because I felt like I just had watched storytelling at its finest. And again, you don't have to feel the way I do. We're definitely going to delve into Ashley and Clarence's C-Ricks. That's what we're gonna call you tonight, King. We're gonna call you what you like to be called, and so we're gonna dig into both of their take. But I definitely wanted to just kind of open with, as I was watching the contrast of reviews from our own community, it seemed to be again very extreme, and in my personal opinion, again, obviously, I love the movie, and you definitely have a right to differ with me. But I would say some of what I was seeing was this aspects of our own personal, what I would say, our own trauma and how we felt the movie should go, and
Right.
kind of missed the beauty of how the movie did go, if you will. Go
Went.
ahead, Ashley. I'll let you jump in on again.
No,
That's
I
just my initial
absolutely
thoughts.
agree with a lot of what you just said. I think it's almost like irrelevant when you start reading statuses and hearing reviews that are like, it was supposed to be a love story, it was supposed to be this, like it wasn't supposed to be any of that. It was supposed to be like exactly what it is, and that's what we need to analyze it as. I think everybody wanted like a Love Jones too, when that's just not what they wrote. And that's okay. But the thing is, like, art imitates life. Art imitates reality. Even when C-Rix was just listing this entire the stereotypes of every man, and yeah, it's every stereotype. Everybody should be represented. There's somebody in that movie that everybody can connect to. And I think that was the point of it. So it's crazy that like you list that as a disadvantage or a downfall of the movie, but I feel like that's what connected. Everybody got an uncle who called his son a nigga. Everybody, like, we all have encountered those people, and I think that that made it super relatable, and I think that's important.
Now, sounds good. Let me ask you this, see, Rick, from again, and obviously, since again, I've already kind of told you my take, and when the goal here is not to beat up on you, so don't take it this way. So my question to you would be, um, in passionately calling me the other night and saying, "Hey, there's issues with this movie," and you even made reference to the fact, there's no way around the reality of us as African Americans living in the American experience, that there are issues uh, that you felt like were favorable. I think I heard you just say this when you spoke to me the other night, favorable in a sense from the standpoint of white supremacy, just to get that word out there. But to go back to your list, it what were your expectations? Because I think what I hear Ashley kind of just pointing out, it's our expectations may be what, in our opinion, makes people miss the beauty of what we saw. You don't have to see it as beautiful, but I think she made a good point in the sense that for people that are making some of these points, it may be their expectations may have made them miss it, if you will. And does that make sense? So what were your expectations, if you could just share that without thinking the movie specifically? What were your expectations going into Queen and Slim?
Well, I actually saw the route the movie was going in an artistic way.
Yeah, the question is, what were your expectations prior to the movie, if you will?
What was my expectation?
Yeah, prior to going to see Queen and Slim. Yeah, what was your expectations?
The way the movie was advertised, it was like, okay, this gonna be like romance and action and stuff. That's what I thought it was.
Okay.
Now, when I actually initially went to see the movie, it was like, okay, it started off really good, and then the movie was just too uneven.
And uneven
it's
in
like
what way?
It could have been a great movie to me, but the movie is uneven. It's like it's unbalanced.
Okay, so what was it leaning heavy towards for it to be unbalanced in your opinion? And again, I just want to hear your thoughts on that. When you say it's unbalanced, it was unbalanced mainly in what sense? Like it was not enough of what, or too much of what, if you will.
It was too much of a lot, especially when it comes down to us. And it's like it's just okay, we've been displayed like that enough in the films now. Okay, now it's time to kind of like help uplift people now, because how am I trying to say this? Because first, okay, you got the angry black woman.
Okay.
Who they switched her character too many times in this movie.
But what he specifically said in the movie was that he didn't disapprove of how they handled the actual moment that everybody saw in the film with the cop. That he didn't approve of it. And so
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and so he was almost saying, so yeah, I'm gonna hit you in the head, and this is the price I'm charging you, because I don't necessarily approve of it. But I thought it was beautiful that at the end of the day, with him personally saying, this is how I feel about how y'all handled that, because he basically said, I'd have been nice and went home with my ticket. He said that, and I still thought, wow, he still fixed their car. Like, that's a contrast in itself, because he's sharing with them, I don't approve of what you did, but he's still about to basically aid and abet fugitives. Even with that feeling, he's still, yeah, I'm going to take your whole $2,500, but I got you. That's an amazing contrast.
That's black loyalty, man. I might not agree with you, but I mean, I'm gonna do it because you're my people. Even if it comes at the cost of him actually losing his son later on, based on the interaction that he set up. Like, he asked his son to take them walking, and it was there that they had that conversation, and whatever events unfolded from there. So that's kind of unfortunate. That he kind of went out on a limb, still fixed their car, and then he suffered. He suffered in the end.
And even at the point when she was the sister, being kind of strong-headed as she was, still very strong-headed at that point in the movie, right? See, to me, the most brilliant part was her transformation during their relationship, how she started out very strong-headed, because I've seen people all week long talking about, another angry black woman, and she's kind of pushing him around, and that's not that people are wrong about that, but the transition in the movie ended up being beautiful. So at that point, she was the main one saying, how do I know I can trust you? How can I, whatever. Right. And that man says, son, come take them. I'm finna let you go with my son. Like, that was extremely powerful to me. Any thoughts on that? Well, again, you don't have to see it the way we see it, Riggs. So you good. Don't feel any kind of way seeing it differently. But that's kind of how we saw that. How you feel about that?
Now, some of the things you said, I agree with. The part where everyone was working together, even though everybody knew that they were fugitives, everybody still kept it on the low. I like that part. Even in the club situation,
Yeah.
Nah, beautiful,
Everybody
beautiful.
knew who they were.
All right, let's go to another
Everybody was
contrast real
like,
quick.
they didn't say nothing.
Nah, that's dope. Here's
Huh?
another.
Oh,
Let me jump on another contrast again and get both of y'all thoughts on it. So, a very obvious contrast, which her uncle warned her about, was when they were going to hook up with Flea and his the white guy that ends up being Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers. For those that don't know, or whatever. But
Right.
but anyway, that character and his wife. So his uncle warns and says, "Well, the wife's she ain't nothing nice." So, but he
right.
says, go meet at this actual house. It's almost like a safe house per se. And literally, this was a former military member, whose life or whatever, a former military member. So they go there, and again, beautiful writing to me. So you got Flea's character, who's absolutely open, knows what he has to do, and says, "You'll be safe here, even if the police come." The wife is pretty much saying, "I don't like you here. It ain't cool whatsoever at all that y'all are here. We need to make." And so, if I'm them, I'm afraid to stay just because of how she's acting. But again, in the writing, they show this contrast, and then the police obviously shows up. They're able to hide safely, and then when it comes down to it, and the police has him and her on the curb, and clearly Flea's character is not going to break, and the police says to her, "Are you going to be smarter than your husband?" And clearly the fact that that we saw them the next day still in that house without the two of them proves that even with her disagreeing with the whole scenario, she kind of in a sense rolled with her husband and didn't say a word. Again, an amazing contrast considering how antagonistic she was towards them through their little short stay with them. Again, that's dynamic contrast throughout the movie. Any thoughts on that, Ashley?
Um, yeah, I didn't like that part.
Okay.
Um, Flea, love Red Hot Chili Peppers, of course. So it was kind of a really hard scene for me, even when they first walked in and she was like, I really don't approve of this. What y'all did, y'all got kids thinking it's okay to shoot cops. I was offended. And I was with them like, well, we don't got to stay here. And even the comments she was making at dinner, like, I would have definitely hesitated. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm out of there. Without question, I'm
Yeah,
gone.
like absolutely. But even on the curb when the police are questioning her, she still looked like she want to talk. She does.
Oh, yeah.
But she doesn't. She doesn't. I mean, I can see the contrast. I don't appreciate it as much as how you described it, but I mean, I get it.
And here it is. It's not about liking it. It's about
Right.
that the writers did that to us.
Yeah,
That
definitely.
Lena Waithe did that to us. Put that antagonistic lady in there who ends up holding it. Again, I'm not giving her credit. I'm giving the writer credit for doing that to us. Any thoughts, C. Rick?
Right. Now, I think the bigger. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go. No, just say that real quick, and then we'll get back to C.
Because
Rick.
I was waiting for you to give an actual, like, a bigger issue with it. I think more so they were
The white savior
contrasting.
part, possibly? The white
What?
savior angle? I know one issue is the white savior angle that people are.
But I don't even see.
Okay,
a
I
white
just wanted to go ahead.
savior.
Yeah, what issue you see? What issue do you see?
I think the crazy thing is when we saw that they were white, we were automatically assuming like, oh, they gonna turn us in. They gonna turn Queen and Slim in. That's the end of the movie, and that would have killed the movie for me possibly. But the bigger contrast against it is the fact that they sent him to somebody black. He from the hood. He look like one of our homeboys, and that's who turns us in. So we have all this disdain and this distrust for these white folks who literally like hit us, housed us, helped us, only to be turned in and by the black guy, which is I think a way bigger contrast.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Go ahead, C. Rick, jump in, King.
Um, that particular scene that wasn't really a white savior scene for me. That scene, it did have now that particular scene kind of had me nervous. I was on the edge, like, okay, this white woman right here, she looking like, y'all know they got a $250,000 bond on you. I could be paying my mortgage off of that.
Right.
Cause she wasn't having that. She got an attitude with the husband, like, you got them up in here. Yeah, it's time for y'all to go. But she went along with the husband. And I see why she went along with the husband, because he was plotting up to get the money too.
Where are you
why
getting
would you
that from? Why you keep saying it?
Because he's the one gave them the address to go
So,
there.
and how did he know he was gonna turn him in? Where did you get any inclination that the money was split within
Originally, that black character was. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm just trying to understand where you concluded that from.
Well, after he gave the address to this person, that this unknown black man who originally was supposed to be a white character, but they changed it to a black character. They gave it to him. I'm like, okay, so they led you to him, and then now he led you into an ambush, and he has the money.
I don't
That's where the part gets confusing at that part.
Okay, so let's just square that part away.
It gets confusing.
Let's just square it away.
It's like a lot of storylines.
I think you're making a leap right
There's
there.
a lot of unfinished storylines.
Well, no, it's not. I think you're making a leap.
It's common sense.
Yeah, you're making a leap. I understand what the leap that you want to make, but the unfortunate thing is, as Ashley,
ain't it.
yeah, that's as Ashley already pushed out. That unfortunately ended up being the brother that just turned him in. So the white family literally thought it was
So
going
how
to
did
be.
the brother even? So how did the brother even find out even?
He's setting up the plane trip. It's not that hard. He took him to it. So once it's set up, all he has to do is call
Drop
it in
him
and get
off.
the money. It's not that hard, brother. It's very simple. So they send him to him thinking he's gonna finish the deal and get them to Cuba safely. So the only person that ratted him out is the brother counting the money at the end, the whole $250,000 in his trailer.
Yeah.
That's who ratted him out. There's not much, and definitely don't want to get off on. I'm just saying, just kind of pointing out that that's literally who did it. So they were not part of the setup. It's literally what
They couldn't have been. If the SWAT is going to storm your house and interrogate you
Yeah, get the 250 right there.
over
Well, see, he's a white man.
money, you're not.
Whatever he say, that's what's gonna happen. They ain't finna listen at him.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'll let you have that take. Let's keep this thing
I'm definitely
moving.
let you have that.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you have that take. So I'll just say
It was several of them that-
it was pretty simple to me that it was clearly just a brother. Unfortunately, as Ashley said, our own was a big letdown, and I get how that emotionally could feel when you're watching the movie. Again, this is beautiful storytelling to
And
me.
then why would I send you to a white couple house knowing that his wife, is doesn't like black folks around her?
Because maybe his wife's not the head of the household. Regardless of what she thinks. Like you saw, even though she said she could pay her whole mortgage with that money, when she saw the SWAT team, she was right with her husband, sweeping them plates off the table, hiding and not giving them up.
And she didn't when she could have. When she had the chance.
She
Are you
absolutely
smarter?
had the
Are
chance.
you smarter than your husband? And as I agree with Ashley, before that moment, she's wanting to talk, but she held to the household rules, which was clearly how Flea was carrying it. Even though she didn't want to, she held it. So I definitely agree with her on that again. But let's kind of keep moving. Let's open up the phone lines as well. Can you give me the number again? 678-383-7623. 7623. One more time, brother. 678-383-7623. We'll put it up on the screen as well. So if anybody wants to call in and give us their take. Here's another contrast that I thought was, again, these contrasts, they're hard to swallow. So let me say this as well real quick, Ashley. So I didn't like her character, as I already said. But, again, beautiful writing, the fact that they put us through that.
You didn't like who? Queen's character?
No. I was saying that the character of the Flea's wife or
wife.
whatever.
Oh,
I was just saying. So I felt the same emotion you felt. Again, beautiful writing in my opinion. Another contrast, a huge contrast, was clearly the young brother who wanted to go down in infamy. You know what I mean? The brother, the mechanic, the son of the mechanic, who when he meets them, admires them, tells him he wants to go down in infamy in so many words. We don't realize that it's going to lead to what it led to, right, in the actual movie. Like, they're basically foreshadowing, this very surprising part of the movie, because there's no way, again, beautiful writing, a cop who's literally saying, look, it's a riot right now. I just want you to get out of here. Basically, being a brother to the young man, right? He's approaching him. He's not approaching him. He could be a hole in that moment, but he's saying to the young man, brother, just get out of here. I don't even want nothing to you. Just get out of here. And so no way with that type of conversation do we see that a gunshot's finna ring out and that this young black man's idea of infamy was that moment. And in a sense, the contrast of this young man being inspired by this accidental self-defense moment and Queen and Slim basically being held up by our entire community as this movie goes on, to the extent that they're getting the black power fist anywhere that they go. So people are, if you think about how that's happening, people are just seeing that moment that they saw on film, and our community sees it as self-defense. But the fact that they ended up doing that, people made assumptions that this is just who they were. And so this young man says, I almost thinking, I want to be like you. And he's the complete opposite, because they're accidentally got into this situation, and it's driven him to kill a cop. And not only a cop, a black cop.
A black cop.
That's hard. But here's the contrast that I feel like Lena Waithe, the writer of this movie, is capturing. To make that cop black speaks to the reality of how we see the oppression of our relationship with the law enforcement, right? So to capture it, as hard as it is to see it be a black cop, it's still speaking to what's still a real powder keg in our community at any moment. When these moments happen, black cops have to go through, are you selling out? Why are you doing it? So by making it a black cop, it's capturing all of that in a movie moment when we didn't see that young man was going to pull that trigger. Again, I hated it, but I love it from the standpoint of movie making. Any thoughts from both of you?
I actually understand, because nowadays we really, now it's to the point where now we just really don't trust police in general. It ain't even a color no more. So it's like it's white or black. So can we trust you or not? And I've been seeing it a lot. They've been called sellouts and all. It's some good black cops out there. It's just now they're being pushed into the you just a bad cop person category now.
Right. And for the moment of that movie, he appeared to be a good cop for what we could gather in that moment. So it was even harsher to see that young man pull the trigger.
Yeah.
But again, another surprise as the movie continued to surprise you as you watch the story unfold. Go ahead, Ashley.
Probably my least favorite part in the entire movie. Mm-hmm. And if you went to see the movie in the hood, everybody gasped. Like, that was probably the craziest part of the movie to everyone, when he shot the cop in the face, because it was so unexpected. But I like the way that you said it, Montoya. I think that's how it was supposed to come off when it was written. I also picked up on, the young activist movement. They want to be heroes. They want to be known. Like you said, he was looking for infamy. But it's also like the status of society right now is literally teaching like this black versus blue dynamic, where kids, that guy's age, the little boy's age, are probably thinking, like, they're being conditioned to think cops are killing boys who look like me. Cops are killing boys my age. Like, even black cops.
Right.
It's you either black or you a cop. And that's really sad, because I'm not 30 yet, but I might have come in on the tail end of, like, I still think they're good black cops. Right. I do. I know a lot of them. I know a lot of them that aren't good cops. But for, like, the next generation and younger generation, I can absolutely see why the mindset now is there are no good cops. I can't trust cops, and I'm threatened every time I'm in their presence. And I think that definitely came across.
Yeah, let's peel that back just a little further. I mean, you're saying it exactly right. So the movie beautifully picks up that dynamic, because that's not a discussion that we're having. We're not having a discussion in general. As much as we've had this long history with law enforcement in our community, but what we're not picking up on is how young people are seeing it. And so they were able to show it to us on screen. So for people who, again, you can have a different opinion, I don't mind. But for those who are calling the movie trash, you're missing that they brought that to the table for us to now discuss. Like you just said, that how are y'all young people seeing this? I could tell you from having done shows talking about know your rights and things of that nature, or having a
Right.
lawyer on my show who's a white lawyer who tries to, in a sense, who actually investigates bad cops here in the Atlanta area. This is kind of how he makes his main money, right? Like this is but his personal activist work is going to schoolers, making sure they understand their rights. And he says the most disheartening thing he experiences in doing those teachings is how the first response from a lot of high schoolers now is the belief that the cops are out just to kill them.
Right.
Like that is their overwhelming belief, and he's and so to capture that in a movie now makes us, or should make us, under get have more realistic conversations, so that we're not putting a heightened level of fear of to the extent. Here's what some of the young men have said to this
Yeah.
lawyer, and then I'll let y'all jump in. Some of the young men have said, because the fear is that high, that if they're ever stopped, they're just gonna shoot. That's like nobody's
Or run
talking about
and be
that, and
shot.
this movie gives us a chance to talk about it. Go ahead, Ashley.
Right. No, I interact with kids all day, every day. So what I hear is it's either fight or flee. So if you come off that
Yep.
aggressive initially in a police stop, like it's only going to heighten the police officer's aggression. And these are the things that you try to have to like communicate to the younger community. I'm absolutely not the person that's going to tell you you got a yes sir, no sir. Absolutely not. I was annoyed in the very first scene when he did get pulled over and everything was yes sir, no sir, you can look at my trunk. Me personally, I'm like, absolutely not. No. But you have to teach you can stand your ground if you know you're right. But what you can't do is escalate the situation by either fleeing, you will be shot, or fighting, you will be shot. So it's
Right.
very hard, especially talking to young black men. It's very hard because after that they're gonna say, "Well, what should I do?" And there's no answer to that. There's no answer to that at all.
See, Rick, any
It's
thoughts?
sad.
Because
It's
I
sad
want to, I
because
want
it's
to, I want to
sad.
do one more thing on that very scene, just to share something. But I want to make sure I get Rick, your thoughts on what we're talking about right quick before I give this one last thought about that scene specifically. See, Rick, you still there?
Oh, I'm still here. Yeah, I agree with what she's saying.
Okay. All right, no problem.
A lot of our, huh?
Okay, okay, I didn't know if you
A lot
had
of
yeah,
our,
if you had more. I'm sorry. Go ahead, King.
yeah, a lot of our young people, they are not being taught how to deal with situations like this. And
Yes.
when I was young, I was one of the young ones that I didn't know how to deal with situations like this myself, and now I do know.
Okay.
So I do try to talk to young people about how to handle situations like this as well, because that's, like she said, the only thing that a lot of them have been learned to do is to fight, be aggressive, and some of them shoot back. And you got social media. Social media is encouraging this too as well. So we got to teach our children social media. Don't follow social media. We got to teach you to
Yeah, that ain't
how
gonna
to
be a
conduct
simple. That ain't gonna
yourselves.
be a simple one there. Let me give one last thought about that actual moment. So clearly we understand that it was self-defense. That's how we see it. However, here's a however
Right.
that I don't think people are going to like. But again, if we're talking about teaching young people and understanding how they're seeing the world based on us not sometimes not giving them the information they might need for those moments, well, understand her exiting the car literally becomes a very
Absolutely not.
serious moment for the police officer without being
Right.
asked. I just want people to understand that. So while she's saying I'm reaching for her cell phone, that it is impossible for any cop, black or white, to accept those actions. They are taught if a second person leaves the car without you telling them to, that it is your life is probably on the line. So while he was being a hole from the beginning, clearly asked the brother to get out of the car without any real fair intentions. Her exiting the car, just something you have to know so that we're not following or in that
Right.
situation because
All
of,
right.
and, because that's a reality for cops training. Just to know that or understand that if somebody exits a car without their permission, their assumption is to do harm. Unfortunately, so just know that that is a
Right.
reality. And so when Queen and Slim even dealt with it, she said to him, even though she's the lawyer, she says, "You think I shouldn't have got out of the car?" And he just went silent because it wasn't even worth a fight at that moment. They on the run. They on the run at that moment. But she shouldn't have got out of the car. And again, I'm not trying to do a whole right and wrong moment, but if we're gonna teach young
It's
people,
not a right and wrong, but it's extremely teachable because you have two sides of that. You have people who understand the law and your rights, and then you have people who are going based on what they perceive as morality, the right thing to do, which yeah, you're going to say she shouldn't have got out the car. That was confrontational. But what you're missing is the officer was out of line. He had no reason to be doing anything that he was doing. He had no reason to be conducting the search he was conducting. She was literally trying to help. She was telling,
Right.
even when she honked the horn. I'm in the movie theater like, search the trunk. Oh no, we
I'm
not
in
searching
the I'm in the
shit.
movie
He's
theater
like,
saying the same thing.
yeah, and
I'm
he's
not.
like,
Mm-hmm.
he
But she
already
kept telling
consented
them,
to
don't
it.
do it.
Which
Now,
shows you how cops are so super manipulative because did Slim consent to her or did he say, open his trunk for me? He said, okay.
no,
He didn't say,
absolutely.
can I search your trunk? He didn't. But it goes on to show she's not like an
Right.
asshole. She's not being an angry black woman. She's telling this cop, like, no, we have rights too. And what you missed is he goes back in the car and he radios it in, possible DUI. And they're like, do you need backup? No,
So let
because
me.
he did not perceive a
Mm-hmm.
Right.
threat.
So let me say this very clearly to you, just so you know, and we'll move past this part. I didn't miss any of what you said. I clearly saw that he was improper in how he was acting. So I didn't miss it. I understand why she got out of the car. The training has to be do not get out of the car for our young people. It has to be even with the
Okay.
improperness. It just
Now, if she didn't get out the car and he shot that black man on his knees with his hands on his head, then what?
she can't get out the car.
Absolutely not. I'm not. You know what? I'm gonna let y'all have it.
I could dig it.
I'm not teaching my kids that. I'm
Okay,
not teaching
okay.
anybody.
Well,
I
just
know
well,
that.
just
No,
know that
because
that's
your
how a
life is
cop's
just
going to
as
receive it.
valuable.
Right.
I'm not going to spare my life just to make a cop feel comfortable. You need to be trained better. You need to be better trained. If me getting out of the car to check you on your actions, which are absolutely ridiculous, absolutely against my human rights, I'm absolutely going to check you
Right.
on it.
So just understand that unfortunately the reason that it'll be seen that way and is because other people get out of the car with bad intentions, you're going to be seen in the same light. Just some people, when cops have gotten harmed,
And that's on
right?
both
So just
sides.
yeah, what I'm saying,
Just
but they
like
can't.
good
They
cops,
just know that they
just
can't be
like good
trained any
cops,
other
where
way
they're
though.
like,
They can't be
I,
trained another way. They can't be
how
trained.
else can you train? How else can you handle that? I'm telling you, the alternative of that is she stays in the
I
car,
get it.
she
But
doesn't
just
engage, and he gets shot.
all right. I'm not disagreeing with that part. I'm just trying to just tell you to understand that for the cop, they're not going to ever train them that someone getting out of a car without their
And I'm
permission.
never going to train young children, especially not my child,
Okay.
to sit in the car.
Okay, that's fair. Fair. We'll keep it moving. So, so let's get into the contrast of Queen and Slim specifically, because again, a lot of people have looked at she was, the concept of an angry black woman. She was bossy, and I saw the transition happen to where, in a sense, he made some decisions that she rolled with as she began to trust him, which is to me a beautiful dynamic that I think happens in real life. Aside this movie aside, that in a sense, as she began to trust him, some of the bossiness went away. Did y'all notice that dynamic? Because I thought it was one of the most beautiful aspects of this movie. Again, maybe like you said, Ashley, people might have been looking for a Love Jones. I think it happened even more organically and almost very realistic considering the circumstances. But any thoughts from either of you on that transition that I think I saw that I actually loved in the movie?
I loved it as well. It was probably my favorite aspect of the movie, just because I think when I hear people say it's not a realistic movie, what does everybody say? Like, it was only 4 or 6 days, they couldn't fall in love. But I just don't think that's what happened, because the reality of it is, when you do get in a situation like that, it can happen exactly
Absolutely.
like that. People
Absolutely.
get arrested after first dates all the time. The first time they're even meeting this person. Your life can literally change like that. So for them to be forced into this relationship, romantic or not initially, like, they have to adjust to each other, because the reality is they got to be in the car. They got to be in the car together. They're in this situation together. And I even look at the fact that she didn't even initially like him.
Right.
This is not somebody she was even gonna go on a second date with. Like, he was definitely not gonna get no ass. Like, I love that part of it. And I'm absolutely rejecting the whole angry black woman. I don't think she was angry. I think she was extremely assertive. And as she should be on a first date. She can absolutely be guarded. She can absolutely be um, bullheaded. Now, I will say it was painful to watch as a assertive black woman, because there were parts in the beginning where I was like, oh, she's just ridiculous. She's just overdoing it. But it was necessary for black women to watch. Like, we needed to see
Right. That's what I saw.
ourselves, because I absolutely saw myself. I to the point where I was like, oh my God, like,
That's what I be doing.
I would leave. Like, there were so many moments I was like, okay, no, she's just too much. She's just overdoing it. But then, like, it just puts it in context of, well, damn, like, that's how we be sometimes. And we needed to see that, because what we also got to see is how he was handling her, even when she was an asshole, even when she
Yes.
was super bossy from the beginning.
Right.
He was still very soft with her, very understanding, very apologetic, even things that had nothing to do with him. She came to the date with the vibe. She came to the date heavy from work, and he was supportive. He was listening, and I noted that.
And let's throw out this.
With,
So for all the things you're
no,
saying of his
yeah,
softness and soft and all those things were true, but he would stand up at the moments necessary. Sometimes he did it with a little bit of humor, but it was a couple times where she absolutely knew that was the decision. And that was the assertiveness that she needed to see to build the trust.
from
And
him. But
yes,
it came with trust. Exactly. Exactly. It definitely came with trust. And then I think it also came with the element of, like, vulnerability.
absolutely.
Once I can trust you, I can be vulnerable with you. And then from the vulnerability comes the softness that you're perceiving at the end of the movie. Her being so much nicer and so much more understanding and less argumentative. Like, all of that is such a necessary dynamic that we need to learn how to incorporate in all of our romantic relationships.
Yeah, I
It was
loved it for
definitely like
exactly
a
that.
give and take.
No, I loved it for exactly that. See, Rick, any thoughts
Yeah.
on that dynamic of her, in a sense, being hard at the beginning and basically letting him lead? It was his. She was like, "Why Cuba? We're going to Cuba." He kept it. That was it. We're going to Cuba. That's how she wouldn't have accepted that answer through 2 days before.
But she liked it when he
Yeah,
said
of
it.
course. Yeah.
She loved the
Yeah.
assertiveness. So,
Um, I actually, with those two couples, I saw the transition. I did see the transition where because she been through a lot of trauma too. So her trust in a few people, it wasn't. You could say her trust was on edge with some people, but she kind of like she saw that he stood by her side for this long time, because both of them could have went their own separate ways, but he held on to it, and it seemed like she saw something in him that was so good and beautiful. And even through all of that, she stayed with him, and she finally started smiling. I said, okay, because she was a little bitter she was a little rough in the beginning. She was a little
Yeah,
rough in
she
the
was more
beginning,
than a
but she
little
did
rough.
soften up.
Right, she was more than a little rough. But
She
I look,
softened up
yeah, but I look at
finally.
it like we have a couple of hours to tell a movie, right? To write a movie. So in a couple of hours, that was something they clearly wanted to capture. And so the way they did it was to give us, in my opinion, two real life characters. And so I saw a lot of people hating that part of the movie, saying, "Oh, here we go, another movie with another soft brother." We get another movie in the line of, a brother that's just too soft. And when I go see it for myself, because I go in saying expecting to see that, and clearly in the beginning I'm seeing a brother just kind of getting kind of rag tossed around to a certain
He
extent.
was
To a
not
certain,
getting
I'm
rag
I'm, I'm,
tossed.
I'm exaggerating a little bit, Ashley. I'm just saying, but for the
And what?
most part,
Oh, that's what they were saying. He was soft. That's the first time I hadn't heard that one.
no, I've been seeing it all week.
He
That
wasn't.
people,
I mean, he wasn't soft. That might just been how he was raised. He wasn't
He
raised
was
to
just kind.
act
Like
like that.
everybody's not
Yeah, it was
super
just,
aggressive.
no, absolutely. I'm just telling you the things I
he was
saw.
just a
So
real nice person.
I go in seeing it, and then I'm actually blown away by the dynamic of the transition. So I'm seeing not everybody saying that, but I see people that didn't like the movie saying, "Oh, here's another, in a sense, a feminist, strong woman." I mean, I saw people saying that going into the movie. I was that easily went away when I saw the full transition of how as she gained trust, she let him lead. That's a reality that we are always constantly talking about in our own community. And based on our own dysfunctional traumas that a lot of us go through, that's going to be the process. But if nobody ever tells you that, a lot of times you get stuck at the beginning of that dysfunction. If nobody ever tells you that's the process, I'm talking about for me as a African American man, as a man, if you don't understand that that's going to be your process, you have to earn that space for her to become soft. If nobody ever tells you that, you're just going to be jaded and see a movie like this and say, oh, we got another angry black woman. Because, again, that was being thrown out by some people. And I know, Ashley, you completely rejected it. I think people's dysfunction sees her that way. When I watched it for myself, I saw a beautiful transition that made her not that to me at all.
Agreed.
And with that said, talking about her, I wanted to share the unfortunate aspect of you, as you told everybody on social media, you went to see this movie by yourself, and I wanted to just throw this out again. Another dynamic that's worth talking about. That's kind of separate from the movie, but I wanted to at least throw it out there because I was hurt to see this. I know, and I was going to read what you wrote, but I'm just going to make it quick because we only got a little bit of time left. The idea of you experiencing this movie yourself with a group of young brothers who missed the amazing beauty of a one Jodie Turner Smith. This woman, I kissed the ground she walked on. That woman was
Me too.
amazingly beautiful. The amazing shots they had throughout the movie of her and Daniel Kaluuya, Queen and Slim together, the beautiful shots. I just saw beauty on the screen in the writing and beauty in the screen of these two beautiful dark melanated people. And you heard something a little different, and I just wanted you to bring it to the table because I was hurt by it, but I thought it was worth bringing to this discussion before we get off.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I've seen it twice. So the first time I went in a nicer area, and I went by myself. And I sat on a row with maybe 9 or 10 black men. And before the movie started, it was just all jokes and good times. Like, why are you here at the movie by yourself? You too pretty to be going to the movie by yourself. All of this. And I was just like, yeah, I'm just trying to watch the movie. But I was super excited that, this many black men were disinterested in this plot because it was marketed as this black love story.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't think that black men would be interested on their own,
Right.
aside from like their woman.
Right.
So I was super excited. But as the movie goes in, like, it's just comment after comment about how unattractive Queen is, about how they definitely wouldn't be sacrificing this much time for her. She too ugly
Yeah,
to say
exactly.
stuff.
Yeah.
It was just
No,
terrible.
he was
It was
beautiful.
terrible. And I was infuriated the entire time. And it made me lose so much respect for these men. And it just made me start thinking, like, I don't know what the standard of beauty is now, but it was absolutely inspiring for me to see a woman darker than me on a screen. Beautiful black features, natural hair, no lashes. She ain't got makeup on the whole movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, it
Absolutely.
was amazing for me because we don't get those roles. As a darker black woman, like, it's very rare I get to see a star actress in that role with those kind of shots. How they shot her
Oh
was
my God.
absolutely artistic.
Yeah, they blew my
They
mind.
Yeah,
like
it's
it
a
was
beautiful shot,
mind
Toby.
blowing, right? even him, even if you look at Slim as well,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
he's dark, he's gorgeous. But how they shot this movie just accentuated,
Yes, they did.
and I just can't understand how somebody could miss that.
And here's how it gets missed.
And
And
she's
this
a
is
beautiful
again,
woman. What
yeah.
they talking about?
Well, here's how it gets missed, and it's
No
something.
idea.
It's just something for us. It lets, in my opinion, seeing what you wrote, let's be, lets parents know that there's work still to be done. It's work still to be done. That again, all of us saw it as clearly an amazingly beautiful movie, beautiful people, especially the shot, like I said, the way the screens were shot. But for men to kind of side on that side of it, it's
Right.
about the subconscious beauty that sometimes we still fail to see in ourselves and the love that we have for our own, or if you're still caught up by these standards of beauty that unfortunately you have a Kendrick Lamar, what, just 2-3 years ago when he chose dark models, it was still a thing in Hollywood. Whoa, Kendrick Lamar forced him to
Right.
use a darker model for his main girl. This is just 2-3 years ago. So that tells me work still has to be done in our own community about how we see ourselves. And if you think about how I opened the show with the idea of people that that look at this movie from however they saw it as trash. And again, I'm not trying to, dog you out, see Rick, for how you saw it. But what I'm pointing out for
I am.
that's cool. You can have that spot. You can have that space, Queen. I'll let you have it. But what I'm saying is, as I mentioned in the very beginning, if you're seeing it that way, in my opinion, it's due to traumatic triggers of how we still see ourselves in the context of how others see us. And so the
Now, I didn't say the
issue,
movie was trash,
so
man.
the issues that were
The movie
triggering,
wasn't trash.
that's fair. That's fair. But the issues
It's
that were,
fair.
but the issues that were triggering can only be triggering if you're worried, in my opinion, if you're worried about how others see us. And so I bring that back to these young men who said they wouldn't risk all of this because she's ugly. That's still ugliness that they see in themselves and work that was not done
Mm-hmm.
while they were young
Absolutely.
to be able to see the beauty in a sister that was amazingly beautiful. And so there's work that still
There
has
was
to
a
be
lot of
done
beautiful
in
folk
our
on that
own
movie.
community and how we see ourselves. And in my opinion, the fact that we're saying this after this movie tells me how important this movie is to continue
Right.
discussing, because I could do a whole nother hour on things I didn't get to in this discussion. You know what I
Right. Oh,
mean?
there's so much.
There's so
There's
much
so
more
much
to
to unpack in
unpack, and
this
I don't even
movie.
know if we did it justice, but I wanted to bring that up to say, go see this movie. There's a lot to unpack. If you are triggered, it can trigger you, it will trigger you, but we need to be able to allow our writers, Lena Waithe, Melina Matsuka, Daniel Kool-Aid was an executive producer. That means he put his money up for this story to
He
be told.
did.
So let's put that out there. But understand, in order for us to see ourselves in our own context, then we should be able to allow to tell every story. We've been begging for it. They told us a story. It didn't necessarily go the way we wanted it. And that's the beauty of being able to just have a human story. But if it has to go the way we want it to go, not to be triggered, then we're limiting our own writers and we're never going to allow them to tell full stories. I think they took a shot and beautifully pulled off a full story. So with that said, I want to say thank you to both of you. Thank you, C. Riggs. Ashley, if you will, you are the sponsor with Free Black Law Apparel. If you will, tell people how they can get a hold of beautiful shirts like this, a Khalif Browder shirt. If you could share that before we get off this thing, Queen. Thank both of you for being with us. I loved it. Go ahead, Queen.
Thank you so much for having me. Apparel, accessories for social justice and situations just like what we saw in Queen and Slim can be available online. You can follow us on all social media outlets at freeblacklaw.com. If you mention this podcast, if you mention this live, I will actually give you 15% off of your entire order. So that's it.
Super cool. Thank both of you. I appreciate y'all. Tune in if it's your first time seeing this or hearing us. Tune in every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. right here on the Facebook page for our radio show, MentalDialogue, every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check us out. That's what we do. We wanted to bring a special pop-up. I hope we did it some justice. I absolutely loved the movie. The soundtrack was amazing.
It was.
Perfection on screen. thank you to everybody that was behind this movie. Highly recommend that people go see it. With that said, we're out. And as our motto says, all I ask is that you think. Join us on December the 20th for the Mental Dialogue live experience at Urban Grind if you're in Atlanta for our end of year live experience. We're doing soapbox dialogues. Ashley, I think you've agreed to be a judge for me. So if you're in Atlanta, you can come do this thing with us live in a much with many more people involved in the setting or whatever. Black-owned coffee shop in Midtown, Urban Grind. Hope to see y'all there if you're in Atlanta. Hope y'all tune in on Saturday morning. With that said, we are out. And last thank you goes to Jericho. I'm saying that right? Jericho Broadcasting for producing tonight's special edition pop-up show. Thank you, King, for helping us out tonight. With that said, we're out. Share this. If you think it was good, share with all your friends. I'm putting it up on Facebook every day this week. See y'all.